Join me today for another exciting episode of Spinning My Wheels. Welcome back to those of you who've been here before, and welcome to those of you who are new to the channel. This is another episode of Spinning My Wheels, and today we're going to be doing a follow-up to the previous episode regarding the nature of the undead in D&D. This is going to be a shorter episode. I'm going to be primarily talking about Death Knights in this one. After the last video, I did a little bit of reading, and I'm going to have to check the monster manuals and whatnot for 3rd and possibly 4th edition, just to get an idea if the lore changed at any point. But what was written in the 5th edition monster manual sounds right, so I'm going to assume the lore hasn't changed drastically like it has with some other creatures. So, the Death Knights seem to predominantly be paladins who abandoned their faith, turned away from their faith, did something terrible against their faith, and then died. And they're brought back as unholy monsters meant to terrorize the living. And similar to a vampire or a lich, there's specific rules for how you have to destroy them. So, like with a vampire, you've got things like decapitation or stake through the heart, burning them to ash and spreading the ashes, things like that. With a lich, you have to destroy them and then destroy their probably better destroy their phylactery first, then destroy them. Otherwise, they'll generate a new body. So, a Death Knight, even if it is reduced to 0 hit points, even if its body is completely destroyed, it will come back, so long as it has not righted the wrongs of whatever landed it in this position to begin with. Which, that seems to sync up with the lore behind the most famous Death Knight, which is Lord Soth from the Dragonlance setting. There's about to be some spoilers here about a specific character from the Dragonlance setting, so just in case, spoilers. But Lord Soth was tasked with, he was a Knight of the Rose, so he was a Knight of Solamnia, and he was tasked with a specific job which could have prevented the cataclysm, but instead he got sidetracked, killed his wife, killed the woman that he fell for, and their son, and then the cataclysm hit, destroyed, killed him and his other servants, and so then he was brought back as a Death Knight, and he terrorizes the setting for a couple centuries. He ultimately joins Takhisis' army in the original War of the Lance. She's Team Evil. Then some things happen. He goes to Ravenloft, comes back, and whenever the Dark Queen comes calling again, this time he tells her no. And her servant, who was Mina, known as Mina the Dark Cleric, turns out Mina the Dark Cleric is actually also a god. but she'd been like brainwashed by Takesis into thinking that she was immortal, empowered by Takesis. So she uses her powers to render Lord Soth back into a mortal man, and still, even under pain of actual death, he still refuses, and so she kills him. So in his case, yeah, it's a little different in that he was turned into a human and then killed, but the reason he refused is because he had finally had enough. He had I believe he had accepted what he had done, that it was wrong, and that he shouldn't have done it. So he had faced what made him a Death Knight in the first place, and that is how you permanently destroy a Death Knight, is you make them own up to their past failings, or to right some kind of wrong or something. And then whenever they die for good. So that's the skinny on the Death Knights, which also puts them, in my opinion, pretty firmly in the follower and not leader camp, because the whole reason that they're in the mess to begin with is because they didn't do what they were told, which heavily implies that their primary job is to follow orders. If they were former paladins, so paladins have orders and responsibilities. They're lawful characters. So if you can make them, recognize that they failed in their duty and somehow make up for it, they can achieve the peace of actual death, and not just the endless cycle of destruction and rebirth. So that is, that's long and short on Death Knights. The generic Death Knight does have stats for 5th edition. Lord Soth also has his own stats in the Dragonlance Shadow of the Dragon Queen book. Picked it up the other day. Possibly a minor spoiler, but this is more to do with the books. Unlike the normal Death Knights in 5th edition, Lord Soth does have an ability that is a stand-in for power word kill. So, because he canonically has that ability. Now, I believe that's because Death Knights at the time had that ability, and it's just that in 5th edition they don't. So even though it is still a spell that exists. So they gave him, I don't remember if it's a legendary action or if it's under his spell casting, but he does have it. So, and it looks pretty devastating to me. At least from whenever I flipped through the book, it looked like it. So, hopefully you folks found something entertaining or informative or what have you about this video. If so, we'd greatly appreciate it if you hit the like, subscribe, notify, all those buttons like that. Leave any kind of comments you might have down below, or possibly on our Instagram account or our Twitter account, or yeah, I guess it'll be those two for the time being. So yeah, leave any comments you might have, thumbs up, thumbs down, all that fun stuff, everything to make the algorithm do its thing. But yeah, so that's pretty much it here for today. So hopefully you folks have a good day, and talk to you later.